Hey, I know that there are people who need more money, and you think the answer is in maybe another job. What if it's in stewardship? What if God has something for you right on the other side of your fears and insecurities? Let's talk about it with someone who is proving that you can live an intensified life and overcome just about anything. I want you to meet Deanna Brooks.
Hello, nice to meet you guys. Thank you for having me.
Who is Deanna Brooks? And I know you have a long story, but
Yes.
who is she right now? Who is the person sitting in this seat right now?
So, Deanna Brooks, I go by Deanna be the CPA, right? And for most people, CPA is certified public accountant, and that I am. However, I want to flip that and redefine myself as Christian practicing accounting. And I associate myself with that because I identify with whose I am and not what I do. However, whose I am also has given me an assignment that I want to steward over, and that embodies a lot of who I am and what I do at this moment. So I, you know, the short version is I am a Christian, a child of God who practices accounting and has a passion for helping people in their financial well-being.
Okay, so the finance is one part, and you
Mm-hmm.
identify first and foremost as Christian practicing accountant,
Yes.
right? But let me dig in a little bit because
Mm-hmm.
you do a couple of other things too.
Yeah. I am or used to be a licensed cosmetologist. So I randomly went and got a hair license to do hair. I am a small group leader. I conduct small groups. I am a social media influencer, I guess you could call that. I am a leader, a teacher, a friend, daughter, all of those things. Yeah, but yeah.
When you need her to be, she might even be praise and worship leader.
Oh yeah, oh Lord. Okay, yeah, I love worshiping too.
This is why I didn't want that to be hidden, because there's so many times that people feel like they have to narrow themselves to one box in one lane.
Yeah.
When she says I randomly got a hair license, a cosmetologist, that's not something you random do. Like you randomly go get some ice cream.
That's
But
true.
you wanted to pursue something you were obviously passionate about and love. Look at that.
Yes.
Look at this hair, by the way. Look at
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah. But now you are identifying as the Christian practicing accountant.
Yes.
How did you find your path to that space?
Ooh, okay. So I guess we gotta start with the childhood piece because
Okay.
I mean that's what's gonna make it make sense. And do you want me to start with how I navigated to finances or hair and or both?
And or both.
Okay.
Give me where you are. Are you still practicing? Are you still a cosmetologist? Or you just hook
So
some people up on the side every
on the
now and then?
side
Okay,
every
I
now
got
and
it. I
then,
got it.
but I'm about to renew my license, and who knows? I might we'll dabble every now and then.
Okay.
But for me, it all started in my childhood, and from the time I can like remember, I always saw a lot of fighting, a lot of turmoil in my household. When I was 5, my house got robbed.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so I saw a gun up to my sister's head, everything, and it of course that traumatized me a little bit. That traumatized me, but it was all. And then the scariest part about it is that they were like, we almost, of course, got killed, but they let us go by because we only had $40 to give.
Wow.
And I remember all the arguments were always centered around money. I remember seeing my mom always like kind of ration out the money on the bed. She'll put the bills on the bed, and then the money would be less than the bills. And then she'll be like she'll be telling me about it, kind of like venting to this like little kid who doesn't understand anything. But all I knew was we don't have enough.
Yeah.
And whenever there were school pictures, I would get stressed, or whenever there was a school trip, I would get very nervous because I knew like, okay, that's going to be another amount of money that I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford. Am I going to be the kid that sits out this time because we don't have enough money? And when I went into adolescence, I kind of like transitioned from my neighborhood school because I was always gifted in the area of math. I was always gifted. I was always the smart girl in the classroom. And so for me, I always had this knowing that whatever I'm dealing with now is not my future. For some reason, I just had like this agent, like I had this feeling that I can do whatever I put my mind to doing. Mm-hmm. So I started getting letters from CPS, which is Chicago Public School System. And they were sending letters to my mom saying, hey, your child is too smart for this class. Mm-hmm. I mean, for this school that she's in. And I was, at that time, I had been offered the chance to skip the third grade. Mm-hmm. And I didn't because I was afraid to be with the older kids. Mm-hmm. I thought, I want to be with my friends. And then I went into the next grade and I was just like, these people ain't my friends. Mm-hmm. And I skipped, like, now I'm stuck here with y'all. I was like, I got to figure something out. So I decided to start asking people questions like, hey, is it possible for me to still skip a grade? And they were like, no, you can only do that in third grade. However, there's this program that you can go into where you will basically be taking high school classes earlier. Awesome. And while you're in 7th and 8th grade, and that will give you the opportunity to probably go to college a little earlier. So I said, okay. I got accepted into that program. And now I go from being in a neighborhood where everybody's struggling, everybody's like dealing with crack and being arrested. Like some of my school friends, like they, come to school and be crying because their brother just got killed and, just stuff like that. And then I go from that and I get planted in a nice little middle class, like well-to-do area where people like have 2 cars. And I'm like, what is this? Like, and my best friend at that time, well, she's still my best friend. She had a 5-bedroom household and they had a pool in the back, like 4 luxury cars, like clothes, she was very like beautiful and all these things. And so people would always compare us. And I would always compare us because she got the chance to go to Europe. All my friends got a chance to go to Europe. I couldn't go because I couldn't afford it. She could get clothes. She had a huge closet full of clothes. She could have it anytime they wanted. I was like circling through the same 5 shirts every single week. You know what I mean? There were holes in my shoes. People would tease me for it, but I couldn't afford to get new shoes. So I just, at that time, it hit me and it started making me depressed. And one thing I want to mention is during this time, this is what was so pivotal that I almost forgot. During this time, I was in a church where they wore skirts all the way down to the floor. You can't do nothing, can't move, can't, like nails, you going to hell, like all types of stuff. And so I have that. I have the turmoil in my house that I'm dealing with. I have the, the school, like, being the poor person who can't do anything. I tried to do sports and I was always on the bench, you know what I mean? And it started getting to the point where, my mom will always hear these things about me at school and at church. And I just felt like I was an embarrassment to her. I was an embarrassment to everybody. Oh, wow. I felt like, what is the purpose of my life? Because I'm a nuisance. Because at this time I was just crying every day.
So let me pause and ask you about, were you searching when you say I went to sports and that didn't really work? Were you searching for something you were good at, but you were great at math, you were smart, but that wasn't enough? Is that?
Yeah, and here's the thing. I was good at math, but now I'm in another environment where I'm average.
Right, because everybody is gifted.
Exactly. Okay. So now that kind of gave me esteem has been taken away from me. Okay. And now I feel like I have nothing. You know what I mean? I'm bringing nothing to the table. And I was just remembering just feeling so sad every single day.
So tell me, from that point to your, let's say, college years, because obviously you had to go to college and you found your niche. You found something, you got back to accounting, you got back to all of that. How did you, what happened that built your confidence? What happened that helped you to really sink in?
Here's the thing. What led me to finance in the first place was because I got to the point where I was suicidal at the age of 13. And I was like, I'm done. I was on the bus. I was on the school bus coming back from another game. I'm riding the bench, yet another game. And I'm looking at the back of the bus and I see the latch. If I run really quickly, people are not going to know what I'm doing. If I pull that emergency latch and just roll over into the expressway, this will all be done.
Wow.
And I felt that was the first time I felt like I had control over something. So it excited me. And so I'm finally feeling like, yay, I get to do something that is going to end all of this. And everybody be happy in my mind. And I was inching off my seat to like go back and do it. And then as I'm inching, I hear this voice saying, stop. I need you to go and achieve all the things that you feel are beyond your reach. I need you to go and change your financial situation. I need you to go and go beyond what you see as normal right now, because you are going to be the hope that you need for another little girl coming behind you.
Wow.
That changed my whole paradigm at 13, 14. At that point, I was off to the races. I'm like, I got to figure out what I need to do. So somebody said, you're good at math. How about you be an accountant? Okay. And from there, I was like, I skipped the junior year of high school because, again, I'm in that program that I can. I skipped junior year, applied for the top second ranked program in the nation for accounting, got in, and it was just moving from there.
Wow. So you, first of all, that was an intense moment at a very early age. Yeah. And you had to push through because you could have gotten stuck. Yeah. And actually follow through or got into some other negative behavior. What kept you from, or did you ever have other coping mechanisms that really kind of, I don't know, maybe shook your world a bit, but you had to come back to that focus?
So I did get into some terrible behavior too early. And Sarah Jakes Roberts is somebody I always identify with because in her search for meaning and for purpose and all this stuff, she went and did other things, got involved, had sex a little too early. And I always identify with that story because that was me. That was me. I was searching for something to make me feel like I was better. You know what I mean? Like, I'm more mature than all these other people who are talking about some stuff, but I'm actually doing it. And nobody knew that was going on. But however, I was going through all of this heartbreak and turmoil all at the age of 13 and dealing with stuff that normal 13-year-olds weren't dealing with. And so the chaos from that kind of wrecked me a little too early. And so for me, when I got that revelation, that was like my repentance moment where I was like, I've already done that. I don't need to do that anymore. I need to be focused and go with this plan that God has given me.
That's awesome. You know, there are people that could be watching, listen, female and male, who can identify with the fact that we get into some spaces. Some of it we don't even have control over. You can't control what family you're born into. We can't control how we respond to it. And that's why one of the reasons why I often try to encourage parents to make sure that whenever you see some gift or talent in your child, nurture that and support it. You never know how that will actually be a saving grace later when they're looking for significance or their purpose and getting on that path. And so now we have this beautiful young lady who's doing all these great things. And if you look at her, you wouldn't think about all of that history. But that's why I love these stories, because I want to talk about now what that we saw the turn at 13. We saw the initial, and that was an intense moment. But then you've had some since then. Yes. You've had some new moments. Tell me, after you got maybe out of college, now you graduated, what got you to Houston, and what have you experienced in the last, how long have you been here now?
5 years.
5 years, yeah. So we met when you were really fresh in here. So what has been the last 5 years? We got through a pandemic. We know, listen, that was intense for everybody. Just pause right now if you're watching this and give God glory because you survived. Okay. But what, since that time, would you say has been your greatest movement and transition as it relates to just continuing that process of growth and the intensified life you wanted to live?
So, okay, first I got to give background as to what got me to Houston, because when I finally left, now I'm like remember, I had this big sense of purpose that was kept me going.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in the working world. And now they're doing things that's making me compromise what I believe in, making me feel like I gotta change who I am to fit in with the culture, you know, the happy hour culture where, you know, you see all types of, you know, not holiness, you know what I mean? And also it was getting to the point where it was like, it was starting to compromise a lot of like my well-being. And so I switched and I went to another firm. I mean, I went to another company, and then I went there and it was good and it was happening. It was good. And then my dad passed in 2017. Oh. And I started feeling like when I saw his casket going to the ground, I was like, nobody cares that he made the best jerk chicken in the world because he's not here to make it anymore. Nobody cares that, you know, like what he did or whatever the case may be, because there's no like impact afterwards. So if I'm doing this and I'm living a miserable life because I want to impress other people or I want to use this to say, hey, I made it, I succeeded, that's not enough, because one day I'm going to be going into that casket and none of this is going to be worth it. And so for me, after that point, I kind of went to a period of just like depression again, to the point where it started getting back to what I was at 13, because I lost hope that purpose that I felt God gave me was diminishing. And then I kind of like went into the bathroom one day and I was bawling, crying. I was like, God, I don't know what you want me to do, but if you want me to be on this earth, you got to tell me what you need me to do, because this ain't it. Clearly, this ain't it, you know? And the next day, I had always, my best friend had moved to Houston. I loved it here, but I was like, no, I can't leave because I need to take care of my mom. I got to do this. I gotta stay at this job so that I could take care of my mom, you know? And then a friend of mine called me and was like, hey, let's move to Houston. And I was like, wait, what? Like, it almost felt like, how did you know I wanted to move? Like, wow. And she was like, yeah, it'll be good. And then all of a sudden I started visualizing how I could be free from accounting altogether. I was like, I could go do hair, because I would always love hair. Like, I got one best hairstyles in 8th grade. That was the one thing that people used to compliment me on. I was like, I would love to go do hair. I would like to be free and not have to worry about what people think about me. And that was the moment that I started feeling free again. I started feeling hope. That was a pivotal moment that I felt hope. So from there, moved here, and I was about to do my hair license, because that's when I was like, screw accounting. I'm done with it. I just want to be free and do hair and be happy. And then in the meantime, in the transition time, I was working at a friend's company, and it was a hair care beauty company. And I was like, oh, this is a good transition. Long story short, they needed me to be CFO. That was a whole thing.
And you kept getting reeled back into it. You were pulled back into
it.
And that's important, because we try to get away from things that obviously you were gifted for it.
Yes.
You had a divine moment that helped you to move in that direction, but we get jaded, we get disappointed, we get distracted, we get all of these things. And somehow I think it's beautiful how God still confirms and watches over his word to pull you back into alignment. That's really important.
Yeah, because that's not the last time he kept pulling me back.
And so at each point, have you ever reflected on if there are any common themes with that need to pull you back? Is it a common type of distraction? Is it a discouragement? Because you talk about a depression, something happens, you lose your father, you lose something that was important. Have you found that theme that kind of keeps you in a place where you have to get back to the point?
So what usually brings me into accounting is the need for financial well-being.
Okay.
Or the need to fulfill somebody else's need.
Okay.
Because I am rare. I'm a Black CPA. It's not many of us, right? And so many businesses need CPAs. There's a shortage. And so there will always be a need. And as I'm trying to escape and do the thing that I feel like my calling is about, I will always get sucked back in because somebody needs me over here and I need to take care of my bills. So I go back, sometimes like kicking and screaming, but still doing it. And, but there, I do see a divine kind of string going where it's like, each and every time I come back, I develop more and more skills that I see impacting people way more than it would if I was doing hair.
Now, again, I'm listening to the story and I'm thinking about how you get pulled back into being a CPA. You're doing something, but you said it's because of a need. One of the things that I believe a lot of teachers, Bible teachers, and just self-help people talk about, finding your significance and value is when you actually help others, serving others. That's the way of Jesus, by the way. But what has helped you then develop this new identity? Because it's one thing to do the work, it's another thing to be and to then claim an identity. You've redefined and relabeled yourself. How did you get to that point? Because that's an intense move. That's saying, no, I'm no longer just practicing something, doing it on the side. This is who I want to actually be, and then out of that being, everything that I do is going to come back to this sense of purpose.
It came back to the point where I was, before the pandemic, I would call myself a lukewarm Christian.
Okay.
And because that's all, that once I left out of like the church where it was like super legalistic, and if you tiptoe this way, you're going to hell. Then I went the opposite way, where it's just like where most people are just saying they're a Christian, doing whatever they need to do, and that's normal, right?
And you had this new freedom because you weren't at home.
So exactly. So, and now I'm at a church where people are getting drunk together, and we doing all these things, and hey, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, I'm covered by God's grace. It's cool, but I always felt the tugging, like God saying, no, you need to make me your Lord, because you're not making me Lord. You just claiming me, but I'm not Lord.
That's intense.
Yes. And because of that, I think I kept making all these decisions that were double-minded in nature. And it was causing chaos in my life. And then it was a point in time where I, around 2021, 2022-ish, I kind of went into a situation where essentially somebody kind of basically got a loan with me for $90,000 and took that money. And now it's on me.
Oh my gosh.
And
oh my gosh.
And just going back, and so for me, yeah. And so for me, God was like, I need you to reflect at the point when you were not listening to me. You were doing your own will, you were doing your own way. You thought that it wasn't that serious. You didn't think total submission with me is that serious. And look where your wise in your own eyes got you.
90,000.
Yeah.
90,000.
Yeah. More than that now because interest. Yeah. And so because of all these things that kind of got me, that scripture about a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways kept coming to me. And then I started getting to the point where I was like, God, I'm submitted. I'm submitted. I don't trust myself no more. I can't direct my own life no more. Whatever you tell me to do, that's what I'm going to do. I'm living for you. Whatever you assign me to be, that's where I'm going to be. And so for me, the fact that I keep getting pulled back into this area of finance, and so many people are coming to me now, so many people are needing my information, and there's so much chaos around finances and LLCs and all these things now. And I have the information that people need to avoid all these mistakes that cost them so much money. And so it's just God is kind of saying, remember, full circle, this thing that I told you at 13, this is the avenue by which you're going to do that.
Yeah, I like it. And it's something that will impact generations.
Yeah.
Because generational wealth is one of the things I know you're concerned about. So tell me a little bit about how you got into the social media space with this. I know we're long on time, and you have so many layers, but I want to highlight this because I know we talked about your journey, and I know what my own journey with these YouTube videos and social media. And some people feel that it's just another thing to do. But I know individuals, Deanna, myself, and several others, it really is an extension of our ministry. It's more than just posting this or that. There's purpose behind it. And the purpose isn't even necessarily, if brand deals and all that come, that's cool. But This is about a mandate to get information, to get a message out, to get hope to people, to get vision because they lack and perish.
Yeah.
So we don't want people to perish, to get information out. So one of the biggest platforms, of course, is social media. You have really, really increased your influence in the last few years. And I love, love, love watching how someone can go from being uncertain, maybe even a little intimidated and insecure, to just pursuing and stay consistent. And then things start to turn and you know that you're in the flow of what God wants you to do. Give me your short story, and I know I just said some of it, but give me your short story on how do you feel now that you see some of the things that God told you come into fruition.
Oh man, sometimes it just has me in tears. Sometimes it just has me in awe. Like, oh my, like we know God is real, but when he shows himself to be real, it's a different, it hits different. And it just like puts me like, it just kind of like really humbles and sobers me and just like makes me have so much reverence for him and so much gratitude. Cause like for me, like why me? You know what I mean? I've struggled with feeling so unworthy of God's love for the longest. You know what I mean? Just the fact that I didn't think he loved me. And so to come into, okay, not only he loves me, but he's using me. You know what I mean? It's just, it's kind of like, it's hard to wrap my mind around, but each and every time, I think even in that, I get attacked by the enemy a lot more because I'm constantly second guessing this, you know, calling, if you will. And I'm constantly like, the voices in my head that's saying, oh, you just want to grow and influence so that you could be rich and famous and that people will know you. And then it's rooted in pride and da. And you shouldn't be doing this because that's prideful and it's selfish ambition and this and this. And then I'll just be like, yeah, no, I'm not doing it no more. Like, I don't want to be I don't need none of that. I don't need none of that influence. Nobody listen to me, no way. And then somebody would come to me and be like, oh my God, that thing, like what hit me? And I'm gonna make this real quick. What really kind of like made it click to me that God has me on assignment in this area is because a friend of mine who I met here, she invited me to like a Friendsgiving this past Thanksgiving. And she wrote a card. It was like 5 of us or something like that. And she wrote a little message to everybody and kind of like said it. When she wrote my message and she started reading it, she started crying. And I'm just like, why are you crying? Like, what's going on? What did I do? She was just like, just watching your walk and your love of Jesus in your social media has brought me closer to him. And I can't thank you enough for doing that. And she was sobbing. And I'm just like, oh my God. So not only am I helping people's businesses, but I'm helping people draw closer to God.
That's the point.
And so for me, it's like I have to constantly fight against that desire to just give up, not do this no more, because sometimes I don't feel creative. Sometimes I'm concerned about the clicks and the views, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with none of it no more. And feeling unworthy. But then it's like God is constantly sending me messages like, I need you to be on assignment because somebody needs to hear what you have to say to draw me near.
So let's get practical just for a couple of minutes. Give me your short fire answer. What would be the top 3 things if someone is struggling with the same doubt, insecurity, maybe that conflict, or the voices that are saying, and it may not be social media, it could be anything. It could be starting a business, it could be writing a book, it could be reconciling in a relationship, but you know God is calling you. What helped you? What are the maybe top 3 things that you had to do, or mindset, a mindset that needed to shift for you to push through and not be stuck in that place?
One is reading the Bible.
The word of God helps.
Yes. Because for me, it's like, if I can't discern the voice of God, it's like, well, what does his word says? Because he would not tell me something that goes against his word.
I've got to pause you. This is going to be a shameless plug. Word Infusion, a book I wrote about discerning the voice of God. I need to help you understand that that is probably the most important thing you can spend your time in for the rest of your life, because it will guide, change, protect, direct your life. Now, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Okay, nice. Once you understand how God speaks, now it's seeking Him.
Yeah.
He draws near to those who seek Him.
Yeah.
And then I would say just pay attention. Recognize, that's number 3, is kind of recognize and pay attention. Recognize the feelings that you feel towards something. You know what I mean?
That stir of passion.
Yes. If there's a burning desire and passion in you to do something that will benefit somebody else's life, why would God tell you not to do that?
Oh, that's good. Hold on. Pause.
Okay.
Replay. Rewind. Okay. Let's run that back. Just say it one more time, just like that, real clear.
If there is a burning desire in you to do something that will benefit somebody else's life, why would God tell you not to do that?
That's so good. I want us to pause there, because there's so many people who do what you said earlier and double back and second guess. And that's why we're here, to help and bless one another. Why would God say, no, don't help somebody else?
Yeah.
Now let me just put this caveat out. We're not talking about enabling bad behavior.
Yeah.
We're talking about productive, fruitful, helpful, healthy things that actually enhance somebody's life, and most importantly, point them to the Lord. Most important, point them to the Lord, get them out of bondage, help them to be delivered and live freer in the fullness of God's life. This is good stuff. So your social media now, like I said, I've enjoyed. I really do. I smile when I see it, because I remember when it was at this place, and I've seen it tick, 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 and not just because of the followers, but because I see a confidence that is growing in that. And I'm just curious now, what in these last couple of minutes, what is God saying about your life continuing to intensify? We make different decisions across the lifespan, but for people who are really sold out and who learn how to seek God, follow, and it's not like you arrive and you go, okay, I'm at this plateau, I'm good. Yeah. There's this continual call. So what right now, if you can say, if you can give us a little sneak peek.
I have a little tagline that I feel like encompasses all that.
Okay.
And I usually, what I'll end my videos with is, hi, my name is Deanna Brooks, and I am a CPA that makes content for faith-based entrepreneurs that desire to grow, scale businesses, to employ others, so that less of us have to decide between our sanity, our integrity, and a check. That's what God is telling me to do now. Yep. Yeah.
I'm grateful. So the intensified life is all about living to the fullest. It is about taking those risks. And sometimes I like to say it's not a risk when you are following God, because God is faithful. So the risk is more in our fear, what we think we're going to lose, what we have to work through. But this walk that requires us to do the inner work, and you've done that in just being able to surrender and fully submit to God, all of that comes to a place now where, how are you doing? You're doing well. So what would you leave for anyone who would ask you, what does intensified life mean to you?
Intensified life means to me being fully submitted to not only God's will, but God's assignment for my life. And everything comes together. There's peace, there's joy, there's happiness, and there's a boldness that comes with it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Boldness, when I see something that I thought or something that I said actually manifest and do something for somebody that either gets confirmed by another person, or I see it work for somebody, or I see it bring somebody closer to God, now I have full rights to keep this going.
Yeah.
And now I'm about to show up even harder, because I saw the fruit that came from that.
Yes.
Now I need more fruit. I need to sow more seeds. And so it just like keeps you intensified to just keep going it all the way through.
Fuel to the fire. Just keeps it going. This is awesome. Thank you for sharing just this. I know it's a small part, a good part, but a small part of the whole journey. And I want to leave for someone who might be in a position like Deanna. First of all, whether you're young or old, we all get to a place where we might feel that we're not worthy or significant. And that's just a lie. You are. When you have an opportunity, stir up the gifts. Don't allow anything to lie dormant, and move with the flow of what God has given you. Sometimes it means that you're going to be pulled back into some spaces where you thought you could let it go. But I love how it came full circle. And God wants you to use and maximize whatever He has placed in you for the benefit of others. And I appreciate that she's doing that and modeling it so well for us. And then for those of you who might need that bit of encouragement to get in this pool with social media and do some things differently, to let somebody know the message you have is worth hearing, come on and jump in with us. I think it'll be worth it. So thank you again for being a guest here. And I'm excited about what's going to happen in the future. And I love the tagline. I know you're going to have more faith-based entrepreneurs, because that's something you can measure, you can see it, but also it's going to advance the kingdom and help more of us all make sure we don't have to choose between our sanity. What else you said?
Our integrity.
Our integrity
and a check.
You can have it all. And that's what I want you to have. On the Intensified Life, we're going to keep bringing you content and great interviews like this to encourage you in your faith to move out and not be stuck, but to trust God in all the ways that God wants to intensify your walk so that you can be a blessing for others.
Hey, so I totally forgot to let you guys know I have a podcast called the Christ Center CPA. And in that podcast, I talk about my journey and others' journeys navigating entrepreneurship, career, business as a Christian who puts Christ at the center of this journey, and talking about the importance of submitting totally to Christ and how that creates a flow. So I would love for you guys to join me. The link is below.
Stay tuned for the next edition. We don't know where we'll be, but we know we're going to bring something that you can use to intensify your walk with God. I'm hoping you will continue to seek God for those awesome adventures that will bring Him glory. This is Dr. Lakeisha B on Intensified Life TV.